this week's Facebook Live. So this week, just give you a heads up, I'm going to talk about domestic violence. So if you've been involved in a domestic violence situation as a child or as an adult, trigger warning, okay? Please turn off if you need to. Don't watch this at all. So, a warning out there, this video may not be for everybody. So, I'm not going to go into great detail about it. I'm going to give you some facts, but please be mindful of your own mental health here. So basically, what is domestic violence? So, every couple can have their ups and downs. We all have arguments from time to time. What I would say to you here is when you're beginning to feel afraid of your partner and what they might do, this could be a sign of domestic violence. We also have to be mindful that domestic violence can happen to anybody. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter your gender, your sexual orientation, how well you're educated, how much money you're making, whatever. Doesn't matter, any status. It's just like addiction. It doesn't care. It crosses and surpasses all boundaries, all barriers, and it can happen to absolutely anybody. So that's the first thing I would say to you. Most of the time we don't actually realize we're in a domestic violence situation because it doesn't fit neatly into what our idea is of what constitutes domestic violence. Usually we think of domestic violence as being just physical abuse. And we also think about perpetrators as being perhaps, the alcoholic comes home after getting drunk in the pub and beats his wife. That's normally, people have or can still have this idea in their head. That's not necessarily the case. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who do that, but it's not necessarily the case. Remember, doesn't care about gender, sexual orientation, how much money you have or how well educated you are. Doesn't care. And it's more than just a bruise, as they say. It's more than just physical abuse. Domestic violence can start off in very subtle ways, and it can keep being subtle. You can feel like you're losing your mind a lot of the time. These subtle ways are a means of undermining you, and then it can build from there as the perpetrator crosses more and more boundaries. So we have to be aware of that. In Ireland, just to say to you that it is against the law. There is a Domestic Violence Act 2018, and this criminalises not just physical abuse of another person, but also the psychological abuse, controlling and coercive behaviour. Is also covered under that legislation, and there are other pieces of legislation there that are there to protect you as well. The Non-Fatal Offences Against the Person Act, for instance, that covers assault, threats, harassment, false imprisonment, sexual assault offences. So just because you may not have been hit, physically abused by your partner or the person you're dating, doesn't mean that you don't have the law on your side. You do. So remember that it's not just about people who are married, it's not just people who are living together. It can also happen to people who are dating somebody, and it can also happen to parents of adult children. We can have elder abuse here, which again is a form of domestic violence. So these are things we need to be aware of. We need to educate ourselves. And if we notice somebody that is struggling and we think or suspect domestic violence is in place, please be mindful of your safety. But you can help them in practical ways. I have a list of contact details that you could simply give them, contact details. But again, be mindful of your safety and their safety, okay, before you step into a situation like that. So let's talk about domestic violence warning signs. There's a lot of them. I'm going to read them all. So, you don't need to take them down or anything like this. You can go check them out on the blog. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. The list that I'm going to read out is not all inclusive. There are a lot more signs, but they'll give you a flavour of how broad domestic violence actually is. So the first one is, you're afraid of your partner. You're constantly walking on eggshells around them. There are mood swings, or you're spending time worrying or trying to work out what their mood might be, so you can basically walk around them on tippy toes. Your focus is always on their needs, not about you, not about the children. It's always about them. They can lose their temper easily and over what seems to be very minor issues, and they usually can be. The person has hit you or has almost hit you and your children. They have been in an abusive relationship before, so if they've been in a past relationship, either dating somebody or have been married or in a long-term relationship with somebody, and there has been issues around the person not wanting them to see the children, or they are, they've given you a warning that this person isn't to be trusted, or they've given you any kind of indication that things are off, that was off about the relationship. It may be an indication that they are abusive and that they were in an abusive relationship. This person can criticize your family and your friends in terms of trying to make you more dependent on them and more isolated away from your family and friends. They can make it very difficult for you to see them and even talk to them on your own. They can call you names and threaten you and the kids. They can threaten the kids and call the kids names. The perpetrator is usually jealous. They can accuse you of flirting and having affairs. They themselves may be having an affair. That's not uncommon. It's not all the time, but it isn't uncommon for you as the victim to be accused of having an affair when in fact the perpetrator who is abusive is having the affair. They regularly criticize you, undermine you, get you second guessing about what you're thinking. They can do this in front of people, but they can do it in private, and then in public, in front of family and friends, make it out that they're very concerned about your mental health, about your mental well-being. And this is all to make you seem like, you're losing. It'll make you feel like you're losing your mind, but it can also undermine you in front of other people, that what you're saying can't be trusted. So they're constantly undermining you. The other thing would be your needs. You're focusing on their needs, but also your needs are never considered. They're not important and they are ignored. They will make all the decisions in the relationship. You're going to find it hard to get time on your own to do your hobbies. You probably will be isolated or encouraged not to do those hobbies or interests or take any time alone away from them, because that would be detrimental to you maybe, or detrimental to the relationship, or detrimental to them. So they're going to try and isolate you as much as possible. And if you do take time out for whatever work, it could be work, not just interest and hobbies, but they're going to demand like what you did and who you were with. So they'll be constantly questioning everything you do, from the amount of money you might spend on something, even if it's your money and it's your hard-earned money. It'll be, they'll want to have control over it. So they will control access to phone, a mobile phone, internet access, to the car, to the finances in particular is a very common one, and even control access to their family or your family. They can also force you to do something that you're really not comfortable to do. That could be something small, but it could be forcing you to have sex with them, or forcing you to have sex with somebody else while they watch. They can threaten to have you deported because of your immigration status. That is a common one with people who have immigrated into Ireland and the UK. They have found that they're being threatened by the person that they're married to that they, that they will be deported. You've got to realise that that isn't the case. They can't just have you deported, and there are agencies out there who can give you the right information. I'm thinking of Crosscare in Ireland. They're very good, very supportive of immigrants in Ireland. So they have access to a lot of information, the correct information. So please check, but always with your safety in mind. Going back to the area of control, so they'll probably control whether you do work or you don't work, who you can see and when, what you can spend, even if it is your own money, as I said, what you're allowed to wear, not just clothes but makeup, what products you can wear. You're allowed to wear perfume, not allowed to wear perfume, and the goalposts will be constantly changing. It'll be flippy floppy in some cases, even down to what you watch on television or what you listen to in terms of the radio, or songs you're allowed to listen to on a playlist. You may not have the opportunity to watch a television or listen to a radio or even have music in the background. You just will not be allowed to do that. They can demand to have your passwords for all your email accounts, even work or your social media accounts. They'll want to have constant access to those. They can put, monitoring. They'll monitor you even from afar. Your activity on social media, your activity on your computer. They will use apps and different forms of technology to actually control you and have an idea of where you are at all times, what you're doing, what you're accessing. So please be very aware of that. There are some very good information on how to protect yourself online on the Women's Aid in the UK on their website. So do have a look at that. They can threaten to kill you. They can threaten to kill family members. They can threaten to kill your children, even if they are the parent of those children. They can threaten to kill them, and they can also threaten to kill themselves if you actually attempt to leave them. So as I said, that list that I've just called out, seems long, but it's not all inclusive. It goes on and on and on and on, and it's usually comes down to the individual, the two individuals involved. It involves physical, emotional abuse, involves neglect, sexual abuse, financial and economic abuse can also occur, and coercive control, including gaslighting tactics. So be aware of that it's not just physical abuse. And that you can be in the middle of it and not really realise that this is what's going on, but you will feel that there's something going on. You will feel it. You'll have a gut instinct that tells you this is not right. If you're double checking yourself and triple checking yourself and feel very off kilter, then I would advise you to really have take some time to have a hard look at what's going on with your relationship. So that's it for this week. Just to say that there are support phone numbers and websites all linked out in this week's blog, and as I said, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Do have a look at it. My own book, The Building Blocks of Self-Care, which was the first book I wrote. I've written 4 of them, but it includes a workbook, and that was actually what I used myself, those steps I used to recover from my own domestic violence. So this issue is a big, very personal to me when I talk about it. I don't really talk about it much, but it can happen. As I said, it can happen to anybody. It happened to me, so it can definitely happen to anybody. I'm a very well educated woman, and financially comfortable at the time, and it was quite devastating. But it was a domestic violence situation, and I'm well out of it now. So if you feel you are in danger of domestic violence, please reach out to one of the national services in your country. The ones I've listed are in Ireland and the UK, but most countries around the world have a national service that you can reach out to. Be mindful of your own safety at all times. And that's it for this week. As always, if you do have any questions, I'm very happy to answer them. So just get in touch. If it's here on Facebook or over on YouTube, please do get in touch. I'm very happy to answer any questions. I'll leave it there. I'll see you all next week. I know next week is a bank holiday here in Ireland, but I will hop on. I'll be earlier than usual. I will do a blog on Monday, and I will do a Facebook Live next Friday early than this time, and I will see you all then. Thank you all for watching, and I will talk to you again soon.